Hello world, it's Dave again, and this video is a response video to one of the emails that I received, and the specific question, like in the title, is what is the first week of training like when you arrive in Japan? And I can answer the question specifically for my company, and that's what this is regarding, this individual coming over, Matt. This is for you, Matt. I'll answer as best I can, having gone through it personally. I know that I should preface this by saying that it's always evolving. I know that that's true of Interac, that as they continue to refine and exist longer in this role that they have, that they're continuously changing the way in which they train you. But I can definitely offer a little bit of advice when it does seem intimidating at first when you're coming over, what you might go through, and just a few things that I would say don't stress so much about. So you get over. I thought it's run very professionally. I dealt with a couple of people at the office, and when you first arrive, you make your way from the airport. Just jumping into it now. When you make your way from the airport, you might have that night there. You get up in the morning. You want to have your tie on, looking good. You go in for the training for the day. The first session of training that you actually have is less to do with training and another one of these orientation sessions where it's going to talk a lot about just life in Japan and what their rules are and this and that and the other thing about assimilating to the culture or just getting used to it and not being entirely caught off guard by it. And they're going to instill at this point a kind of sense of, if there is any issue, that you should always bring it up with the company. If you have a question, ask the company. If you do anything, if you wake up in the morning, ask the company what time you should wake up. I'm just making the point that it's a little bit overkill. I can say now in retrospect where what the company is doing and what makes sense. This isn't, I enjoy working for this company, but they're protecting themselves in that when somebody is first here and they haven't had, any years of experience yet doing this, that if questions arise, they want you to refer to them, as opposed to maybe going on your own judgment to know exactly what it is. And it does make a sort of practical sense where you're not familiar with the system, but the more that you get into your schools, the more time that you spend, you'll realize you won't need to have the degree of reliance in, if you want a question answered, on the company for the way that they make it seem. They're just trying to make sure when you get out of the gate that they can kind of control the interaction between their employees and the schools that they're working at. So if there seems to be a slight overemphasis on the answer to any question when something has gone wrong, being that you should call the company, it is just that. It's an overemphasis, but it's just to make those who might not make the best common sense decision do the right thing and call them beforehand. So you have a little bit of that. So that's just, like I say, to get you oriented and to make sure that when you get out of the gates, you don't do really something, if you don't have the common sense to know better, that you refer to them to have your questions answered, and it gets taken care of in that way. Okay, moving on to the next thing. So then you move into, once you've got that orientation done, you're going to do, if not that day, you're going to do your drug test the next day. It takes no time at all. It goes very, very quickly. You're in and out of there doing that, no problem. And then you start your actual training. And I can say this about your training. There's certain things that, they've said that you should prepare. I can look at this, Matt, you were saying, you got you're pretty amped up right now for the 50-minute demo lesson, and it's making you a little more nervous than actually teaching in Japan, having to get this done right. And it's funny because I felt very similarly going in. I was I'm almost more amped up for the training process, where I'm I bet if I get into the school, I can do okay, or once I get past the training, I'll be all right. But I took it very seriously when I went into the training process. And this, I'll say it right away so it's clear through the entire video. The training at Interac, I think, was good for one very specific reason, in that it's so intense, anything that you go into when you're actually at your schools will pale in comparison to the training that you do. And I think this is the best kind of training. You want to train as hard as you possibly could so that when you do get into a situation, you don't panic. In fact, you might think that it's a little simpler. And that's how I found it. Now, to follow that up, when you're training to begin with, a lot of the training that I found that I did in the first week focused on if you're going into something lower than junior high school, you're going into elementary school, and the sort of lessons that you would have in that scenario. And I've talked about this before on other videos, that in that scenario, because you haven't reached a grammar level yet that you would see in junior high school, that your actual role in the class, I believe, and from speaking to the other people in the company who teach at this level, is much more. Because there isn't that grammar that you have the Japanese teacher needing to step in so much more often to teach the kids and let them know what the grammar is. You can kind of take the class by the reins because there's not that barrier. You do a little bit more, and I mean, it seems practical to me that that's why in the first like 2 or 3 days there's a huge emphasis on you learning that. You might think, wow, we're spending a lot of time on elementary school. Are we even going to have enough time for junior high school? Again, it's for a practical reason that in junior high school, you are far more, and this is just straight facts, it's going to vary a little bit from school to school, but you have far less of a forward role in junior high schools because of that grammar requirement and the Japanese teachers stepping in all the time. And you're going to have, it's really good. You're going to get up, you're only in front of a couple. I arrived at a strange time, so I only had a couple people in the class. Matt, you very likely will have more people in the class. I only had like 4 or 5. So even then, it's kind of intimidating to be up there. Anything new for the first time. I've done public speaking before, and I'm not freaked out by it. But to be there in front of a new group of people doing something new, somewhat intimidating. But it's fine. You get up there, you practice the lessons for for the elementary school. You're shown all the different ways that you would teach those kinds of classes, and you're equipped with tons of different little games and this and that you might pass time. And it's really useful. And then that could be the first 2 or 3 days of your training in the week that you're there, and then the 4th and the 5th will finally enter into like I say, into the junior high school training, and it seems a lot less intensive, and it is for a practical reason, because you're not doing quite as much as you would in the elementary schools. And for the person that I am, when I had this training, I think I caused myself undue stress, but I am who I am, and that's just the way it is, where some people, maybe, even if I'm told this, I'm not able to relax quite enough, but I feel like if I tell people, you should just, if you're listening, if you're paying attention, and if you're doing the best that you can, then you're going to do great. You're going to teach classes well, and don't worry if you have a bumpy start, or say, let's give an example. Say you have you're supposed to go up in front of the group that's there for that day and give a faux lesson on whatever it is that you've been practicing, or a faux section of a lesson, and you don't do all the specific details. Don't sweat it like I sweat it, where it's not going to be the end of the world. Just take it seriously, respect the process, but know that any small errors that you make are just, they're commonplace. No lesson actually goes perfectly. There might be that odd day I'm talking about the real setting, where you remember to do absolutely everything right, but to err is human, and that's what you're going to do, and don't overly beat yourself up. I don't mean to say, don't treat it without due seriousness. You should, but don't overly beat yourself up if you're that kind of a person. Just take it in stride. Know that, you're going to get better and better and better as time goes on. And don't stress. Don't stress at all. And that's about it. It's just, don't overly stress. I took it because I had no point of reference. I guess they didn't look to ask or anything like that. I didn't speak to anybody. And I took it a little too seriously. And I realized when I did it, because I work at junior high schools, when I did get into it, I was like, wow. I could have chilled out of it. And I even had the instructor at one point, he's like, you realize when you make one error that your face falls and you look like you want to die. And I was like, well, I want to make sure that I do a good job. And he's like, well, that's good, but that's what will make you do a good job. It's not going to be that you freak out about every single detail. And he was right. So you get in. Let's run through the simple list of things. You might, you get in, you have the orientation day, you do the drug test, you might present your faux lesson or whatever it is, and then you get into the training specifically. for elementary school, and it will then progress into your junior high school training. Another things, important things, this is something I wish I'd listened to more when they told me at the time. Now, like, it's good, if you wish somebody could have told you one thing. Interac has gotten as far now as having on their website for their employees, they have a really useful thing that I believe is relatively new, where lesson plans are suggested for every single page of the textbooks that you will be working with. Now, if you want, when you receive your lesson plan for the week and you see you're going to be teaching these lessons, if you wanted to create your own thing, that's absolutely fine. But as an incredible tool, like, listen to the words coming out of my mouth, on the Interac website, if you might be in a bind, you're really, really busy, you go onto the website, you log in, you look up the textbook for the grade that it is that you're using, and then it will list all the page numbers from the textbook, and you click one of those. And I mean, not to say you shouldn't listen, but if you think about it, then you could have not listened through the whole of training, and then you get to your first day, you look up the lesson plan they suggest, and if you do due diligence at that time, you would be prepared. They've actually done the work for you on a base level. Like I say, if you want to, elaborate, do a bit more, you can. But it's an incredible resource that they just have sitting there and should be made use of. And in the first week, I was panicking about especially because I was just starting. I was thinking, I'm not making, very good plans, and I wish I got a little bit more support. And I don't know as much as I should, don't know that well yet what I should be doing. And when I asked them, I said, I need a little more details. They said, do you remember from training, we told you that the website provides you with outlines for these lesson plans? And I completely forgot. It is singularly the most used thing that I've had since I've been here. And I should have remembered that from training. If I could have told Dave in the past, if you remember one thing from this, remember this website, and remember to use this website if you're trying to do a lesson plan on a topic for the first time that you don't know that well. So that's damn good that I mentioned that. Aside from that, I've mentioned the only other thing that I would have told myself at the time, whether it would have worked or not, and that's just to relax a little bit more. Take it seriously, but don't beat yourself up if you're not you didn't move to the right side of the class in time, or you didn't speak in the right volume of voice or something. Of course they're going to critique you. Of course you're going to make mistakes. But really, it's that end of the day intention which is going to give you success in your classes. So that's about it. I'm thinking about all the different things I could recommend. A final note. Okay, actually, final note. Now I'm thinking about it. One last thing. The trainers you have are really good in the sense that they're going to give you a million different games that you could possibly play with the kids to warm up, to do this, that, and the other thing. And I furiously took notes on my laptop the whole time to make sure that I tried to get every single game. But again, don't panic if you don't get them all. And that's something else I did, where I was like, man, I think I missed that other game that he mentioned. I missed this, I missed that. Where get as many as you can, take good notes. But if you miss a few, if there's a few gaps, you can find, even on the internet, been okay, I'm teaching the present perfect today. What would be a good warm-up for that? And there's huge resources on the internet, not even necessarily related to Interac, that can make suggestions and give you ideas for that kind of thing. So there it is. That's all the good stuff. So those of you who are not Matt, dropping in for the first time, if you enjoy the video, have any questions about Japan, please do drop me an email. My contact is in the link down below. For Matt, I hope this helps, and I hope I haven't responded too late. I'll look at your email. What time did you send it to me? The 18th, and it's the 24th. I've been busy, but I'll send you an email today to let you know that I'm uploading this. Anyways, yeah, like, subscribe, share, ask me questions, comment below. And like I like to say, until we meet again next time, world, thanks for tripping with Dave. Ciao for now. Peace.